Hello everyone, I am Vincenti from VincentiIL, and I'm back with some more StarCraft II co-op missions.
Not enough minerals.
Gotta say, StarCraft II is definitely the game that I've played for the longest. Played a couple of games since Wings of Liberty beta, but really Heart of the Swarm was when I started getting into it.
Level of infestation here, and we need to burn it out stat. These monsters are dangerous at night, but they burn up during the day. That's when we'll torch the infested structures.
Since I last uploaded a StarCraft video, that was a couple years ago, I was playing ladder, maybe around Platinum League, not very good. Since then I've been promoted to Diamond 3, not a whole lot of progress, but I do still play pretty regularly. But for today I wanted to go back into the co-op mission and try out Stukov again. And I wanted to go for a specific play style that is different from what I used to do. So way back when Stukov first came out, pretty much just went for infested infantry all the way. The infantry was just so good that you could, and that was kind of what they were pushing for at first. But because of that, due to all the mastery bonuses and just the way that they designed Stukov, that was kind of the only composition that most people would go for. Stukov does have these mech units, but they weren't as powerful back then. Since then, I think maybe 2 or 3 months ago, they released some design changes for the mech units, and they also made the bunkers a lot more expensive. But basically, they were trying to make mech playstyles more viable for Stukov. Today, I wanted to try out mech specifically, and that means going for early gases because they are, of course, gas units, as opposed to going for bunkers which don't require gas at all, or infested marines, etc.
We're almost out of daylight. Once the sun sets, the infested will come knocking on our door.
So early gas, factory, and for this map, because we're defending against huge waves of light units, going for the siege tanks first, because they get to launch the volatile infested as their siege attack, which is pretty awesome. They basically are siege tanks that shoot banelings. So pretty cool, pretty fun. Eventually, I do go on to also add in Diamondbacks, especially when pushing out to destroy the structures during the day. They actually do, pretty sure they do bonus damage versus armored, which helps with clearing structures out. Guess I'll double check that later on. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the case. Another big benefit to going with this playstyle with the siege tanks and the Diamondbacks, they're all very mobile. The Diamondbacks, they can move while they're shooting. They're pretty fast. Right here, I just wanted to help Tychus out. Because of the fact that you don't really get a huge number of units until later on because of how expensive they are, mostly have to rely on the call down abilities in order to hold the early game pressure.
We need more minerals.
That's basically it. Still going for the upgrades on the infested compound, but in the meantime trying to pump out the upgrades out of the factory tech lab as well.
The Alexander is ready for use.
Evolution completed. Our forces are under attack.
So here we're pretty much just defending as best we can, using these call downs to keep the mineral line from just dying straight out.
The
with those stupid hunterlings. Maybe I should have built a bunker,
It seems we live
because you can see I'm running low on minerals with this, but I did want to focus on spending it for those expensive units.
Don't get too
Even
bold
here
out
I'm
there.
using the
If our
broodlings,
base
the infest structures to try and defend against the hunterling, and it helps. It doesn't completely destroy all my SCVs, so
Made it to the dawn.
here we go with moving out. It's basically, especially with only a couple of siege tanks, it's a lot of just repositioning.
Need more minerals.
Basically unsieging, moving them, siege them up again, and so on and so forth. They do a whole bunch of damage versus structures though, so it ends up being pretty effective even early on. But once we get a huge mass of siege tanks, then you'll see it gets pretty ridiculous. And then same thing with the Diamondbacks. Once we get a whole bunch of them, then the structures die almost instantly. You'll see when we go for the bonus later, it only takes a few seconds for it to die.
Our allies are in
We got some close enemies hiding around here. Where are the detectors?
And another thing with the siege tanks is that because they're so expensive, you really don't want to be losing any of them, which I did here.
Spawn more overlords. Our allies are in combat.
Is ready.
And one thing that's pretty helpful is spreading the overlords out around the entrances of the base. It kind of extends the vision range of your siege tanks, because pretty sure this is the case for the ladder unit, but for Stukovs as well, they can shoot farther than they can see. So if you give them that extra range, then it makes them all the more powerful.
Structures here.
Our allies are in combat.
As I'm positioning these siege tanks, I try and get them into places where you can shoot multiple things at a time. And here I'm just going for all those upgrades. I'm about to start getting Diamondbacks out as well.
Time is running
Even
out.
up until the second wave, I'm focusing on just getting siege tanks, because the defense is way more important. Still trying to be as effective as possible with these infested infantry. Here I am getting the siege tanks, deep-rooting them to basically teleport back to defensive positions.
You sure you want to do that at night, commanders? The infested will be here any minute.
Our forces have not enough minerals.
A bunch more siege tanks, and then I think I end up sending those new siege tanks to defend the back entrance.
Are in combat.
And then here is what I was talking about earlier with spreading out your overseers to maximize the siege tank effectiveness.
Our forces have met the enemy in combat. Our allies are in combat.
I believe I send most of these to the front, and then a couple of them I end up putting in the back. By the time you start getting more than 4 or 5 of them, they really end up making a impenetrable ground line.
Our allies are in combat.
A barricade is under attack.
Here, just using some call downs to help defend, because actually we didn't have anyone in position yet. We'll just say that that was intentional.
Not enough.
And with the armory, mostly trying to get armor upgrades before attack upgrades. Still getting both, but started with armor first.
Not
Reinforcements now.
our allies are in combat.
We call these ones kaboomers. They spit acid and they explode when they die.
And here, just try to, any of the ones that start getting weakened, I try and cover with healthier siege tanks and push them toward the front. Basically trying to expand the front line.
Our allies are in combat. Our forces have met the enemy in combat.
And overall, we seem to be spending pretty efficiently here. We're not floating a whole lot of minerals.
Our forces are under attack. Our allies are in combat. Our forces have met the enemy in combat.
Don't give up, commanders.
And you can see here just putting the weakened siege tanks back and starting to get the diamondbacks out.
Our allies are
They'll be ready just in time for the next push out to destroy the infested structures.
Let's get to work, commanders. We have to burn enough of the infestation today so that we don't fall behind.
the enemy in combat. Our allies are in combat.
So here it's pretty effective to clear out entire sections of the infested structures. They help reduce the area in which the infested spawn.
Our allies are in combat.
We're starting to get to a point where you can see these siege tanks are just kind of blowing everything up, shooting out those volatile infested. Now the volatile infested, when they fire them, they don't shoot the structures. Siege tank spine tentacle thing has to be in range in order to poke.
More structures.
Our forces are under attack. We require additional. Our allies are in combat. More overlords required.
Just trying to keep up my overlord production. You can see sometimes I accidentally make SEVs instead of overlord, because when you're playing a zerg, in order to make overlords you have to hit S to select the larva, but when you do that for Stukov, that means actually you make an SEV, which is not what you want.
Our allies are in combat.
But between the siege tanks destroying everything on the ground, and then the diamondbacks with their mobility and the fact that they can shoot air targets out of the sky,
Don't give up.
they make a pretty good pushing combo.
Our allies are in combat.
There isn't much time left in the day. I've got another sector with structures on my scanners.
And I think we end up going to get the virophage, the bonus objective, during this round. I think that's the first round it shows up.
Our forces have met
Just trying to get a few more before we skedaddle, get back home.
Crazy. Hold them off. Like the hustle. But advice against it, commanders. It'll be easier to take out the structures in the daytime.
So the virophage pops up on the other side of the map, so none of us are over
Might be a
here.
good idea to kill it. We can only do
I think I
better.
end up using, the deep
Don't
tunnel
worry if you can't
ability.
kill the virophage
Just
today.
teleporting the siege tanks to wherever I happen to need them on the map. And the diamondbacks will show up soon. They're, again, pretty fast.
our allies are in combat.
One of our barricades is being hit hard.
Under attack. Our forces
I'm starting to float a bunch of minerals here, so I think I'll round out my overlords.
our forces are
Yeah,
under
you can see the virophage, it's dead.
Nice job, commanders. Now we don't have to worry
I think we're
about
starting
the
to lose some
virophage
stuff at
clearing
home,
out the
so
structures.
we need to get back to it. And yep, there's my allies' base. So I think I cover it with, between both of us using our call downs and then just, again, teleporting the siege tanks back.
Advice against it, commanders. It'll be easier to take out the
Diamondbacks
structures
took a
in the
lot of
daytime.
damage, but because of their ability to move around while they're shooting, they end up surviving for the most part.
Our forces have met the enemy in combat. Our allies are in combat. The hive cluster is under attack. Our forces have met the enemy in combat.
One thing that I didn't realize at first was that siege tanks don't shoot their volatile infested until they pick up charges of, like, infantry. They'll, like, grab them and they'll eat infested infantry. I didn't realize that until playing this game. It's pretty funny to watch when the infested infantry pop, when the siege tanks just kind of grab them.
Are you kidding me? Amon wants to attack us now too? Perfect.
Here it's pretty easy taking out those stanks, super easy to kite them and take them out, so that's nice. Moving over to help my ally out, but with my siege tanks I think I have the front and the back entrances covered.
It's almost sunrise.
The Diamondbacks they're not super tanky, so you do want to keep them moving and make sure they're covered by your free infantry units and such. I think this ends up being the last push. I end up taking out all of these reinforcements here just with the Diamondbacks.
Our allies are in combat. Our forces have met the enemy in combat.
Even though they shoot while moving, the Diamondbacks, their snare ability where they pull the air units to the ground, that's an autocast ability. So if you're move commanding them, then they won't use it. So if you attack move, then that's the best way to make sure that they use the ability. Again, just finding the best position to get the best coverage with the siege tanks, to basically be in range as much as possible with the single position. And then moving them once again.
Our forces have met the enemy in combat.
You try to save the deep tunnel ability for big moves. So if you're just repositioning them from here to the next section, then I don't think it's necessary to use the deep tunnel ability to teleport them. It does have a pretty decent cooldown.
Evolution complete.
This is the last stretch and the final push.
Our forces are under attack.
Trying to get the Diamondbacks up to the front, and the siege tanks I think are just kind of derping in the back there. Yeah, there we go. That's it. We beat it in 4 days. Pretty nice. GG. So yeah, it's definitely a much different playstyle compared to Stukov's infantry. It's a lot of fun to play, very different. But that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you feel so inclined, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment below and let me know what kind of playstyles you go for, if there's any suggestions that you have for playing any specific commanders, and let me know if you want to see any other unusual playstyles. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day. See you next time.